on cryptex land. Get off the ship and take a walk. Take any guitar and start your own band. Here you can sing, here you can talk, here you can say whatever you want. Here you can stay, become a mutant, just try to be nice. For hate there is no space, don't skate on thin ice. You better not run that race. The race of the trolls, the race of the hate. I will show you the polls. Don't hate, but create. Of the trolls, the race of the hate. I will show you the polls. Don't hate, but create.
Hello guys, how are you? Cryptex here. Please let me know if my sound is good. I'm gonna go to the chat for a while. The angry killjoy. I never got the impression Baldwin understood the bullet evidence or did any research about it. Perhaps he is simply incapable of making clear, concise, cohesive arguments. Actually, I was very impressed about his explanation about the whole gun science, the bullet situation here during the interview with Tom Webster, and that's why I want to talk about it tonight. I think he gave like a very almost how can you call it, pedagogical. Anyways, he explained the bullet situation in the Delphi case in a very simple way, like keeping things in proportion. Imagine, I don't know, Carl Sagan explaining astronomy to the general population in the world, something like that. I really love the way he explained that bullet situation. I'm gonna play the extract from the interview that Tom Webster did, and let's talk about that, guys. Here, Tom Webster, he did like an introduction about the bullet stuff, and he was very honest. He said, I don't buy this gun science, let's say, and he did a very nice example. We're gonna see it right now about how the margin of error in that ballistic science, I will call it a discipline. To me, it's not a science. The margin of error is around 80%. That means that if you are processing 1 million people, 200,000 people are gonna be wrongly convicted just because of the margin of error of that science. So we're gonna hear the exact words Tom Webster used. It was awesome. This subject was one of the subjects where Baldwin and Webster were in the same line. They don't buy the junk bullet science. We don't. Well, most of the people with some brain don't buy that theory, of course. But I love the way they explained the whole stuff during the interview. Tammy McRae, I'll be back for the replay. The Bears play at 6:30, so I will be busy screaming at the TV. So what's the game tonight, guys? Is I think it's Chicago Bears. That's what Peggy was talking yesterday. I think a football game, the final game, something like that for a division championship, something like that. Yeah, she needed to go to do poop, so it's done. So now I'm here. Happy to have you here, Chester. Sis-True, how are you, Sis-True? Happy to have you here. Farmer, how are you, Farmer? So you are watching also the Chicago Bears. Cool. Live cryptexing. Yeah. Michigan Alien, the Michigan Alien is present. Topher from Australia. Good to see you. Anna Lisette, how are you, Anna? How's your Sunday? Lita Joe, how are you, Lita Joe? Pathological. No, pedagogical? I have a problem with this word tonight. Spanish is pedagógico. I think in English it's pedagogical. I'm having trouble with that word. Sorry, guys, for that. Annalise said, if they couldn't get ejector marks without firing, it seems the unfired cartridge didn't make sufficient contact. Firing hits and expands the shell, makes it bigger. Yeah. So, okay. 1 second here, guys. Oh, you don't have television? That's good. Ciao, Bella. Ciao, Sunflower. How are you? My Italian subscriber. So let's go with this extract from the interview that Tom Webster made to Baldwin. This section of the whole interview was very short. It was only 4 minutes out of 6 hours of interview. But to me, it was a very interesting subject or topic. They didn't stay too much in that subject during the whole interview. Only 3-4 minutes, no more than that. But the interventions of Webster and Baldwin about that subject, I just love it, because it's like explaining a bullet for dummies. So let's play it, and then we're gonna talk about it. So those are Baldwin and Webster. They're gonna talk about the bullet. 3 minutes.
The unspent round and the gun evidence, I've like looked into so many areas of this case. That is one thing that I really have not looked into a lot, because I feel like if you can take 1 million 6-hour guns and the science is only 80% reliable, that's 200,000 men who you might convict wrongly. So I really have not paid that much attention to the unspent round.
So that was like a beautiful example of how bad is this junk science when it is used to try to convict someone. I'm going to repeat that 40 seconds. That was the interview for Tom Webster about the whole bullet situation. I loved that example. 80% versus 20%. If you take 1 million people and you are processing 1 million people, 20% of that amount of persons are going to be wrongly convicted only because of the margin of error of that discipline. Again, I'm not going to call it science. So let's repeat this. I really love the example. I love when people explain things in a very simple way. We can have an expert here talking about tool markings and the millimeters between one bullet and the other one in the microscope, which is going to be interesting. But I really love when people talk in a simple way with simple words. That's great in my opinion. So let's do it again.
The unspent round and the gun evidence, I've like looked into so many areas of this case. That is one thing that I really have not looked into a lot, because I feel like if you can take 1 million 6-hour guns and the science is only 80% reliable, that's 200,000 men who you might convict wrongly. So I really have not paid that much attention to the unspent round.
So when he says that he didn't really pay too much attention about the unspent round situation. I don't believe here in Tom, because we know that he is really obsessive. He's an obsessive person, especially when he is digging in this type of cases. We know that he spent maybe, I don't know how many thousands of hours doing his research. So when he says that he didn't look too much into the bullets angle, I really don't believe him. I think he really did a deep research about that, but he's clear. He has something clear in his mind. This is a junk science, and this is basically what he said. So he was honest about the conclusion, but I don't think he was telling the truth about the time he invested in doing that type of research. Anyways, I love that explanation, or that introduction that Tom Webster made about it. Now, the way Baldwin is going to explain the comparison between an unspent round and a fire round was very good. Again, I have to accept that I was mistaken about the performance that I was expecting from Baldwin during this interview. I think I was kind of, I don't know, misled by the preview or the trailer that Tom Webster made before the interview, where the defense lawyers looked really bad. But when I actually saw, or when I watched the whole interview, I can say that Baldwin and OJ, both of them, they did a great job. And in this specific subject, the bullet, the way, the clarity of Baldwin to explain that bullet experiment made by law enforcement was awesome. Again, simplicity, very clear. I don't want to be, or I'm going to be exaggerated. Sometimes I like to be exaggerated. Imagine Carl Sagan explaining cosmos to someone who doesn't know anything about astronomy. So you're going to understand astronomy right away, because the expert who is explaining that to you is giving you a very nice explanation in simple words that is just easy to understand for everyone. And again, we can see that both of them were in the same line in this specific topic, the bullet. So let's go with Baldwin.
You know, for me, Tom, I have a very simple way of explaining why that bullet in the gun did not match. And I don't even have to go through ballistics. I don't have to bring in, you know, our expert witnesses. I don't have to do any of that. Here's the answer. Here's the way to explain it. So the bullet that they claim was between the girl's feet that they introduced into evidence, they say had markings on them, and there's grooves and lands, and you know, you look at it up close and you can see these little lines. All right. They also say that very bullet was cycled through and ejected from a gun. So when it was rifled through, I'm not a gun guy, so I don't know all the correct terminology. Brad handled all that. But when it is ejected through that gun, that particular bullet, whatever gun ejected it, created marks on that bullet. All right. So then they go to Rick's house with this warrant that, you know, based upon what I would say is a very problematic probable cause affidavit, but they still get in there and they're excited to see this Sig Sauer gun that Rick has. And so the first thing they did was, okay, we know these are ejector marks on this bullet. So we're going to do the same thing that we think Rick did with his gun with a pristine bullet. The bullet falls out, and much to their chagrin and unhappiness, they look at that bullet and they compare it to the bullet found at the scene, and they don't match. This bullet did not put any markings from Rick's gun. That, my friend, should be the end of the story. That should be it. if you want to compare what they say happened, that should be the end of the story. Yet it wasn't, because they needed to get a conviction here. So they went through this process of putting pressure on the bullet. And now they say, well, even though there's a lot of things that don't match, there's enough things that do match that we buy it. And we think it's good. It's a good match for the bullet. And it's, it really isn't any more. I shouldn't have to go on to anything more than it didn't add up. It didn't work.
And they had to fire it to get it to match compared to the unfired, which, as I said, to me, it's just not reliable enough. However, it doesn't change my final opinion.
I appreciate your honesty there. I mean, I think a lot of people weren't able to, you know, they're just not able to be intellectually honest about that. Like, it's like, can't you just say that it's apples and oranges and say, I hope you have something better than that.
So I really love the way he explained that, and it was that clear and that contundent that Tom Webster, he didn't even argue, he didn't even reply. So we know that Tom Webster is very, how can we say, radical in his opinions. But here he is in the same line with Baldwin. It was really, really impressive from Baldwin. And as he said, if you are intellectually honest, you have to accept that bullet stuff was just crap. And in this community, there are a lot of patronizers, and they use words like, you have to educate yourself. How can you say that the bullet or the ballistic experiments are not good enough to convict Richard Allen? And they talk like they are experts, patronizing. Educate yourself. Educate yourself. How arrogant do you have to be to use that type of sentences? For real, people are just they lack neurons. Coming back to the chat here, guys. So I'm not intending to stay too long. I just wanted to give this how can I say, credit to Baldwin. I just love that interchange about the unspent round. It was only 4 minutes out of 6 hours, but again, it was a great interchange. Chester, I don't think they crossed the creek, but would the water cause the gun to malfunction if submerged? The creek was high. Hard to believe everything was not wet and damaged by water if they crossed. Yeah, and when they were talking also about the cell phone data, that was also a very interesting interchange of ideas. And I was surprised because Tom Webster, he had some facts wrong in the way OJ and Baldwin came back to Tom in that cell phone data discussion was very, very interesting, especially when they were talking about how the cell phone records climbing steps versus movement. It was really, really good. Usually, Tom Webster, he has his facts right, but in that situation, I think he was wrong, and maybe he's gonna come back with some type of alternative explanations. But yeah, Farmer. But we can see the searchers crossing the creek, and the level of water was like at the level of the waist. So in some areas of the creek, the level of water was really, really high. When we see the videotape material that was taken on the 14th, just one day after the day of the murders. We can see the searchers crossing the creek, and the level of water was significant. We don't carry guns in Canada, so this is kind of different. I agree, and I'm so glad that we don't do that. I hate guns. I hate guns. So, yeah, I'm glad we don't do that here. I didn't remember, Sunflower, that you were here in Canada. Okay. Analyst said, maybe or not, modern firearms are less susceptible to water damage, but they didn't swim the creek. No need for firearms or phones to get soaked. Yeah. Shelley Klein. I respect the debate they had and not raging on Tom, but there is not enough evidence to convict beyond a reasonable doubt. I agree with you. Even if I believe that Richard Allen is involved, I agree with you. I wouldn't vote guilty at all because there is a lot of reasonable doubt. And I don't think that it was a debate. It was an interview, not a debate. They were not debating. Sometimes yes, but not always. It was mostly an interview, I would call it. It's bullshit, for sure. It's bullshit. That's the only evidence they have. And the bad thing there is that was the way to link Richard Allen to the crime scene. So if we all agree that this is junk science and this is a discipline that is not reliable, so we shouldn't even have a process. So I know that we are going to enter into technicalities, but this is a big technicality. It's more than a technicality, you know what I mean? So it's just bad. I agree, Chester. Great job. And I was expecting the opposite, but I have to accept that. They did a great job. And as I said, for years, it's been said that a fire bullet, the projectile, was as good as a fingerprint. And now even that is being questioned. Yeah. I love the way Peggy, he was talking about that yesterday in our streaming, when she said that for her, the ballistics science, let's say, is like at the time when law enforcement were using bite marks to convict people, where the margin of error is so bad. And I love that example that she made yesterday. Peggy is great. So I think Peggy is watching the game of the Chicago Bears. She looks to like a big fan of the Chicago Bears. I feel like the jury needed to hear the defense in this light, and the verdict would be not guilty or hung. Yeah. Striation evidence is iffy. Striation. I agree with everything, Cryptex, but are we all just splitting hairs and dealing with legal bullshit at this point? Richard Allen is BG. He was there because of the Anthony Shots profile. This is what I think. But again, this is a theory. And but yeah, for me, Richard Allen is likely Brett's guy. He has to be the most unlucky person in the world to be there at the time of the events, to wear clothes like the clothes Brett's guy was wearing, to have a car that is very similar to the one that is captured in that video camera, to have a bullet in his house that is not inconsistent, again, with the bullet that was found at the crime scene. So I know that every single element of that situation can be challenged, but all of them, I don't know. He has to be the most unlucky person ever in the world. To me, it is likely that Richard Allen is Brett's guy. Could be Ron Logan. Could be Ron Logan. It's possible, but I would put Ron Logan in a second level of possibilities. Even Keegan Kline, I would say that it's possible he was a bridge guy. In a third level, more unlikely, but I wouldn't discard that. And I said there are no grooves and lands on an unfired case. Those are marks on the actual bullet if it is fired from riflings inside the barrel. My husband was a firearm expert. Hey, we should have your husband here talking to us in one of the streamings, and I said, why not? There's nothing that says Richard Allen had ties to Anthony Shots. I know there's no evidence, but my nose, which my nose is not relevant here at all, I know that. But when I connect the Wabash River and the confession of Keegan Kline, to me that's the link. But I don't have any evidence about that. It's just what makes sense to me. But you're right, there's no evidence. That's about as clear as mud. Farmer is laughing. Yeah, I agree. There's no evidence, but to me, anyways, that's the explanation of the crime, the connection, that possible connection between Allen and Anthony Shots. But again, speculation from my side, no evidence at all. It's just that it's what makes sense. When we have the confession of Keegan Kline, when we have the search of the Wabash River and the arrest of Richard Allen. Anyways, Farmer, I only seen the Klines and the roommate of Keegan Kline tied to the Anthony Shots profile. Not saying he wasn't, as I do believe a bigger circle of bad actors is most likely. I agree with you. I agree. I'm fired. The case couldn't make contact with the ejector. I think I already read this comment. The gun would malfunction even if fully submerged. I think so, yeah. KS, remember you all that just because we don't know a connection between Richard Allen and Anthony Shots doesn't mean there is not one. Yeah, but I understand your point, and oh shit, what did I do here? Sorry, guys. Oh, okay. I understand your point, but we cannot say that here because I can say the same thing about you. So just because we don't know if there's a connection between Anthony Shots and you, it doesn't mean that there is not. So it's a bad way to formulate your thinking, in my opinion. You can explain why do you think there is a connection, because they were living almost one to each other in Peru, because Keegan Kline confessed, because after the confession of Keegan Kline, Richard Allen was arrested. Something like that would be, yeah, speculation, of course. Me too, I'm speculating, of course. And Ali said, the searches were below the crossing point. The crossing area is much shallower. Yeah, but again, we don't even know exactly who crossed the creek, if it was just Levy with the killer, because I think there's a possibility that Abby didn't cross the creek, potentially, in my opinion. But Levy for sure. The ALS, what is the ALS? The ALS being used by the CSI at the scene emits invisible light, virtually no visible light. How did the third CSI see the light reflect off the round? I don't know how the round was found. I really don't know. Farmer, he believes in the data from the United States Geological Survey. It's public knowledge. Yeah, I agree with you. There is data from a scientific organization, so I understand what you're saying, Farmer. But you have to admit that when you see the videotape material where the searchers are crossing the creek, the level of water is significant. Love and light for all. Melissa Oberg matched the unspent round to a .40 caliber gun in 2017. Sunflower. Why wouldn't Keegan Klein not rat out Richard Allen? Actually, I think he did. That's the point. He did. And that's why Richard Allen was convicted and arrested. Not convicted, arrested. He ratted on Richard Allen. And because of that, law enforcement, they searched the Wabash River. But to me, it's the opposite. Keegan Klein was singing, was talking, and he gave Richard Allen's name to law enforcement. Again, my theory, which is not very popular here, but this is how I make sense of the whole crime. Farmer is talking about guns. Exactly. That's my point. You said it, Sunflower. Yeah, there's some people, very important people, involved in that sesame ring, and they are protecting someone. And they made a negotiation with Keegan Klein, and the one who was convicted who was arrested was Allen. That was the deal. Keegan Klein, he gave the name of Richard Allen to law enforcement, and because of that, Keegan Klein was not charged with the Delphi's crime, and he's not gonna talk about the big fish that is involved in the sesame ring. Keegan. That was the whole negotiation, in my opinion. And remember that when Holman was providing his deposition, he was talking about a potential negotiation between law enforcement and Keegan. Of course, he said that that didn't happen at the end, but to me, it happened. It's just that he cannot talk about it because that was the whole objective of that negotiation. They're protecting people with power in that town, or even out of that town. Someone with power is involved. Exactly, Anna. That's what I'm saying. And with the right kind of rounds, can even be deadly in water. So you're still talking about how a gun can be damaged by water. I really don't know anything about guns, so I couldn't comment about it. The four girls explanation explained on case by case today was interesting. What was that explanation, Chester? I was watching that streaming tonight, this afternoon, but I didn't watch the whole stuff. So what was the explanation for the four girls? During the streaming of Tom Webster, when he was talking about the four girls, I saw that case by case he commented in Tom Webster's chat. And Tom Webster and case by case were talking about that, about the four girls. And during the streaming, Tom Webster, he showed a screenshot when one of the persons that case by case is saying that is part of the three girls group, that girl is saying, I wasn't there. So Tom Webster was proving wrong case by case during that streaming. And the answer of case by case was, this is the information I have. But Tom Webster was providing a screenshot from one of the girls that people are saying was in in the trails during the time of the event. So to me, I would say that Tom Webster was right based on the information he provided, because he provided an actual receipt, not he was not just talking like, oh, this is the information I have from a source. So if you can tell me here in the chat what was the explanation that she provided for the 4 girls, it's gonna be awesome. But this is one of the things that looks bad, that we don't have those the identification of those 3 girls to me. And sometimes I think, even if, let's say, Richard Allen is telling the truth, that he saw only 3 girls, maybe one of the girls that was part of those of that group was not at that exact moment with them. She went to, I don't know, to take a pee or something like that. And yeah, maybe Allen, he saw 3 girls, but to me there were 4 girls. So it's weird that that group of 3 girls has not been identified. Oh shit, my cursor is working really weird. Yeah, exactly. That's my theory. Law enforcement made a deal with Keegan Kline to keep him quiet. Exactly. And to give the name of one of the actors. Mustang is here. How are you, Mustang? Good to see you. Happy to have you here. We agree it was a chest deep in areas. Video don't lie either. I agree. Yeah, okay. Thank you, Farmer. We need to see who was using the Dropbox. Yes. Remember when they said this is going to be one of the biggest investigation about CSAM in the whole state of Indiana? What happened to that? I don't know. Kenny Powers. How are you, Kenny? Happy to have you here. Keegan Kline definitely gave up Richard Allen. He was arrested right after the river search. That's the way I see it. Exactly. That's the way I see it. Yeah, exactly. The Marathon gas station, huh? It's just crazy. It's just crazy. A lot of interviews, a lot of material, a lot of evidence was just destroyed. Analyzed concerning Keegan Kline Dropbox, Erica Morse, Delphi Dirt channel announced a few days ago that Holman is the protector of Keegan Kline's Dropbox. She made defamatory allegations if she doesn't have proof. Yeah, I can see a lot of noise about that. Let's see if she's able to provide some proof. It's gonna be great. But that is consistent with my theory, so I would love that to see if she's right. If she's right, great, because at the end it would feel good to be right, but I can accept if I'm wrong. And if at the end the evidence shows that there's no connection, no problem. Farmer still talking about guns. He's a maniac about guns. He's very into guns. So thank you for your input about that. Michelle, if there were a connection between Allen and Klein's, no. You're not understanding my point or our point, because some people understand clearly what's the point. If law enforcement are protecting someone here, they're not gonna use that. You know what I mean? That's the full objective of the negotiation with Kline, with Keegan. There were several group of girls at the trails. Where are they? Oh, Dan is here. How are you, Dan? Finally, you're back, man. We were talking with Dan the other time about the situation of Venezuela. He called to the live. It was great. It was great to have you back, my friend. Happy to have you here. Dan staying in one account. Annalisa is all right. She better have some receipts. Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. The marathon. Previously, the shell on the hill had the area's first boycott. A farmer. And rumor mill level intel has Keegan Klein being HS friends with Shell on the hills owners now. Who is HS? HS, who is that? I'm fine. I'm sad because the Sunday is finishing. So tomorrow, another week at work. I love my work, but I would have another day of weekend. The week should be like 4 days working and 3 days of weekend. But it is what it is. So much talk and nothing. Yeah. Keegan said his father was there, but he didn't get arrested. Yeah, that's a very interesting situation. Why is Tony Klein free? Was that part of the negotiation? Keegan Klein was asking for some things. Okay, I'm gonna give you the name of the killer or one of the killers, but you cannot charge me with the crime, and you cannot charge my father with the crime. That's my deal, and I'm gonna remain silent about the people you want to protect. So maybe that's the explanation. I don't know. Or maybe Tony was not. We don't have the confession of Keegan Klein. We don't have a transcript of that confession. So who knows? Maybe it was not Tony. It was another guy, Ron Logan. What about Keegan Klein, Ron Logan, and Richard Allen? I don't know. And I said, look at this way. The proof channel is organizing all the information about the Dropbox, you mean? Oh, Fishy is in the house. Chester, check out Defense Diaries, coverage of Holly Bobo trial. Similar to Richard Allen, the person charged seems innocent. Yeah, I'm gonna check on that. Farmer is not into guns, but Farmer, you have like 3 shotguns behind you when you are doing your live, so you are into guns. Come on, you know that. I'm not criticizing. I just don't like guns at all. Ooh, Dan is Kenny Powers. So Fishy is sending an emoji, a very lovely emoji to Dan. So Dan, I hope you're receiving that emoji with joy. Boston is here. I didn't see Boston. Maybe Tony's evidence was never found on that $1 million Wawa search. Yeah, maybe Tony was not part of that event. It's weird that we don't have that transcript. So Keegan Klein, he made a confession, and that confession was videotaped at the Grissom Air Force Base, and we don't have transcript, and we don't have the video of that. Why? It's very weird. It's very fishy. Today we have almost everything like in a public way, let's say. We have the interviews with Richard Allen, audios between Holman and Turco. A lot of material is out there, but we don't have the confession of Keegan, which is key in this case. I don't know. It's really interesting. To me, there's something very big in that confession that we don't know. Derek Farmer, via Keegan Klein's lie detector results. Yeah. Oh shit. Don't know, not able to. Don't know what's going on with my cursor here, guys. Sorry for that. Coming back again. Annalise said, when Keegan Klein lips move, he tends to be lying instead of him and his dad being present. Maybe 3 people we know nothing about did the crime. Maybe. But for sure, Keegan Klein was the one behind organizing the meeting between the girls and the perpetrators, for sure. If Keegan was not one of them. Exactly. Farmer, you're totally right. He was not lying, at least in some specific questions. They were using a lie detector, and his story was consistent. So they went to search that river during 6 weeks. You know, good comment. Yeah. Boston's here. Now I can see Boston. How are you? How are you, Boston? Cryptes, you got some guns yourself. My biceps, I have to work out for real. Oh my God. Derek Farmer, I need them for protection. Yeah, no, I know. I know that you need an arsenal for protection, Farmer. I'm kidding, Farmer. I'm just kidding. Don't panic about my comments. I'm just being a little bit sarcastic. Mercedes, so what did they find in that river to connect Richard Allen? That's a very good question. A cell phone, the famous cell phone that was never found. Maybe they have the cell phone. A murder weapon. They found something. Or maybe they found nothing, but they had the name. What they needed was the name. Okay, give me the name. Richard Allen. Okay, we're gonna go to the Wabash River to search the river for the phone and for the murder weapon. They don't find anything, but they have a name. Okay, we have this name. Who is this guy? We already interviewed this guy 2 days after the murders. So this guy's telling us something that is consistent with our documentation, let's say. So then I agree with you. Everything is very fishy. They were forcing stuff to convict Allen. They put Allen in Westville because they needed a confession. They used the bullet junk science to link Allen with the crime. They said that during the video, Libby was using the words "that be a gun." So they forced everything to arrest Allen. I'm not saying that he's the killer. Maybe he's not the killer, but he's likely British guy and he participated. That's how I see the situation here, but I know it's not popular and I understand if you don't like what I'm saying, but I see it like that. Love and light fall for all. Please provide evidence. No, I already said that I don't have any evidence. I said that I'm speculating and I'm connecting the dots. So, why didn't any other men at the park that day come forward? Who are you talking about? Daniel Pearson? What park? What park? Yeah. 3 people we know nothing about makes me feel a little hopeless that we will ever know. Yeah. Dan, what were those North Face boots you showed me, Cryptics? They're not here anymore. There were winter boots. The model is Traction. Awesome boots, I loved. I bought 2 pair of boots, the same, just a different color. One was black and the other one yellow. I love it for winter. Analyset. Good question, but we don't know if they did or didn't. Some must have, like the McCain brothers, exactly. So McCain was part of the process. Daniel Pearson, I don't know why. I don't remember if he was called or not. I don't know. I have a lapsus here. I don't think it's an exaggeration. If you see the amount of people that were searching for that river, the tools, they were working extra hours, the mobilization, a helicopter was being used. It's a lot of resources. So I don't think it's an exaggeration at all. Sunflower, my neighbor is a cop, and he said the gun fuckery is total bullshit. He couldn't believe they even took it. Yeah. We just saw that. Even Tom Webster said, yeah, that's bullshit. Someone like Tom Webster, who is really radical, he's accepting that the bullet science was junk. Yeah, that's right. I agree with you, Farmer. That was public information. No, and not only that, the resources, the mobilization, the materials, the extra hours. Again, helicopters. It's crazy. Scrolling down here, guys. He's still talking about the level of water of the day. I never been in Vancouver. You know, it's crazy. I'm living in Canada. I live in Montreal. And from Montreal to my country, to Colombia, is shorter than going from Montreal to Vancouver, which is a city here in Canada as well. This country is just huge. Purple Amaryllis. Love your Cryptex. You are welcome to have your wrong opinion. Yeah, that's why I have my channel, to give my opinion. Because when I talk about the clients in other channels, it's like the end of the world, the apocalypse. Like yesterday in Tom Webster's channel, like this guy trying to keep me silent just because the sake of nothing. And he's a storm is coming, guys. A storm is coming. You're gonna see, but I'm not afraid of the trolls. Kimosabi. Nalisette. Yeah, I agree. That was the strategy. The Wabash River Search was written off as a training exercise. Except Keegan Klein was taken to the old Grissom Air Force Base. If they were just chasing bullshit, I don't think Keegan Klein would be there. Exactly. You said it. You said it. Yeah, I agree with you, Cryptex Farmer. Good point. It's not speculation, it's public record. Farmer is being adamant here in that aspect, the $1 million cost, and I think he's right. So I'm with Farmer in that affirmation. If he lied about the river, he might have lied about Richard Allen. Actually, what I heard was that he didn't name Richard Allen, but was shown a picture of him. How do you know that? Where did you hear that? And if they had already Richard Allen before talking to Keegan Klein, why are they gonna go to search the Wabash River? It doesn't add up your hypothesis here. Sorry for that, but it doesn't add up. Doesn't make sense. So you are saying that those people that were in the search were supposed to be on the side of the road, and therefore nobody was clocking speeders? If so, then you have lost revenue from not writing speeding tickets during that time, but it's likely they still had those people and paid, maybe even overtime for the river search. Yeah, good point. And said, the tragedy about the gun is not that the unspent round was the only way they got the probable cause to search. That's the only evidence they have. McLellan said, without that, no arrest. Yeah, 100% with Anna. I drove through British Columbia on my way to Alaska. That would be cool, that experience in Alaska for me. Cool. The podium. Do you mean the podium? Farmer is recommending the clients. Kidding, the Cluan. You're good people. Keep it going. We have good people here. Farmer, Fishy, Chester, Anna Lisette. We are a great crew. I agree with you on the clients and lots of other stuff. True, just not Richard Allen. Yeah, a very expensive training exercise. Exactly. Michelle agrees with me that Keegan Klein is the key. Christopher, Keegan Klein is always going to be on my suspect list. Yeah, please everybody like and subscribe. Come on, guys, hit the like. Hit the like. So I think that was all for today, guys. I just wanted to talk about the conversation between Tom Webster and Baldwin about the bullet. I think it was a great way to explain why that bullet stuff is crap. Help me, guys, with the synonyms. Crap, junk, shitty science, not even a science. Carla, Cryptex, much love and respect. I'm just lurking tonight. Even though we have similar yet different views, I know you're the type I could sit and discuss it. Thank you for that, Carla. I appreciate it. So, see you guys. Stay in touch. Have a nice weekend. Hit the like. Don't forget about it.